Most agile transformations fail, not because of tools, but because of people. And this is exactly what we are going to fix today. So if you are planning or already executing the transformation of any scale of your business or project from the traditional project management to agile, stay tuned. I have all the insights for you. Hi, I'm Victoria, psychologist in business, agile trainer, and transformation lead with over a decade of experience in tech companies and helping leaders and teams grow and perform in fast-changing environments. Today, I will walk you through how to lead the agile transformation in the right way. I did it myself several times in different scale from dozens to hundreds of people, and therefore I have the experience to share not only from theoretical point of view, but from the real hand-on experience. So let's dive in. Agile is not only the methodology, it's a mindset shift which helps business stay customer-focused, flexible, and fast in the world of uncertainty. And the most important to understand is that Agile is not suitable everywhere. So there are some limitations of Agile. We will not dive into that now because the topic of today's video is to how to make it and what psychological topics are behind. But still, the main Agile limitation is people. And therefore, now we are going to discuss it. Most Agile transformations fail, not because of methodology, but because of resistance of people, lack of clarity and vision. So point number one to start with is why Agile? Why do you need this transformation? Because everyone is doing it, because it's so modern and popular, because your competitors have already implemented that. Why do you do it? Because you read a book, listen to a podcast, or why? So this why is way bigger than how. For example, you need to address fast changing requirements, which is impossible in a traditional project management way, yeah? Then this is a good reason to implement Agile and explain it to the team and then lead the team through that change, yeah? But the why should be correct, because this why will also motivate people to implement it so that you can sell the idea to your employees or colleagues. Next, you evaluate as is and to be. So as is processes is what we have now, organizational chart, who is decision maker or makers, which processes do we have, where are they documented, which time schedule do we have, how do we work together, how do we deliver, and so on. So which processes and people do we have now? And then to be. So what do we want to have from the best practices, hopefully, of Agile methodology, whether it is Scrum or Scaled Scrum. And also in these to be processes, we evaluate the success. What exactly you want to achieve. Faster delivery or more changes possible inside that delivery, or happier teams, or delivery together by several teams or even products, yeah, in bigger scale. So what exactly should be achieved? This is very important so that we can measure our success, because people can have different opinion on what you achieved afterwards. So make sure you establish it now. The next point would be to evaluate who holds the power, the authority. The most important is who is a decision maker. Because with this decision maker, it is absolutely crucial to establish good relationship. From my personal experience, I can assure that this point is actually the most important from everything. Because if you make the Agile transformation, then decision maker together with you will lead everything. Of course, you will ask the project, the whole employees or your colleagues or everyone inside the project or product, how you call it. But without this decision-making center, nothing is possible. So changes are coming top-down, asking bottom-up questions and feedback, collecting this feedback. If you only do it top-down without asking people, it will be basically a dictatorship, never works. Well, okay, it works, but not in Agile, okay? If people are changing something bottom up, it's a revolution. So what you want to have is top-down change asking bottom-up questions. collecting the feedback. These top-down changes are made only if you establish super good, trustful relationship with a decision maker. For that, you can establish additional calls, you can go for lunch with this person, you can make anything, present yourself, explain your experience, conduct trainings, anything, but the most important is this personal connection and trust which you have, because this is crucial for your transformation. The next point is how to address resistance. Resistance exists. In my university, when I was studying for psychologist, I have a master's degree in psychology. During my university years, we were told many times that the client will come to you as a psychologist, and the client will not come by themselves, they will come with resistance. Otherwise, they would be already in the perfect place where they want to be, perfect life which they want to build. But there is resistance which holds them back. And this is not questionable, it exists. The only one question which we have is how exactly to address this resistance. There are different schools in psychology, there is psychoanalysis, there is Gestalt approach, which I actually have, there is client-centric, there is behavioristical, cognitive, and so on, different types of psychotherapy. In these different approaches, resistance is addressed in different ways. For example, psychoanalytics, they are analyzing the resistance, like why do you want, or why did it happen, how was it in the past, and so on. So they analyze. Or you can have different approaches about feelings, emotions, but also what I usually do, and this is what I actually suggest you to do, is to exaggerate what they say. So join the resistance and multiply and grow it as much as possible until it sounds absurd. And then the person by themselves will come up with an idea which you want to give to them. The classical resistance is formulated in a way something like, it will not work because we have already tried and the way we work is kind of okay, so we will just continue as we are doing now. Great. You know that it doesn't work, it's horrible, everyone is on stress, people are working on Saturdays and Sundays, nothing, like it's just a horror movie. Nobody wants it, everyone wants to change. So after person addresses you, like you will just continue in a way. You say, okay, great, let's do it. Let's continue like that. Let's forever work on Saturday and Sunday till 11 p.m. Let's always be in chaos and stress. Let's always have unpredictable delivery because the planning is not good. Let's always have this or that. And you exaggerate it until it becomes obvious that something should be changed. And then you start the discussion. This is just one of the approaches. Another approach would be to collect all possible why not, why it is not possible, why it will not work all together, and then cluster them and address separately. It is basically like working with objections in sales. The next point is actually the continuation of the current one, because it is impossible to make a big change alone. So this resistance is so big. It's not only each person individual. It's not only if you have 100 people in the project, it's not 100x of resistance. It's a multiplied resistance. It's way more. It's 200 or 300x of this resistance, 300 units, whatever you measure this resistance in. Because there are processes and there is history and people used to work in a specific way. They have values, they have unspoken values. So the whole system is resisting you. So to change it alone is absolutely impossible. But there is a good news. It is of course possible if you have someone who also wants to change it from this system. So what is important to do is to understand who exactly will be on your side, will be agents of change. In my case, what I did in huge scale, I hired Scrum Masters. They were one type of my agents of change, as well as high-level management, because the change was for several hundreds of people, high-level management and group and department leads. So there was quite a big round of people who were actually interested to participate and to make a change. They all had a bit different vision, and my role was to align them, but that would be the next point. But the most important is to not only find the decision maker, but also build this community of changers, of agents of change. So what is important is to not only find the decision maker and build relationship with them, one or more people, but also to build good relationship, trust and vision for agents of change. Together with them, you're going to overcome the whole resistance of a big system. So what I always do in this case is I organize regular calls when everyone has a slot in the calendar and understands that this slot should not be overbooked by something else. And we are going to discuss how exactly we are going to implement the change, what is the next milestone, next step for the nearest week or day, and what do we communicate to the team, and how do we motivate, and so on. So all of these details, from big strategy to small tactical steps, are discussed on those calls. The next step would be to actually provide the new vision, interactions, processes, communications, and so on. So finally, here and only here, after everything we did before, we implement the actual change. How often we are making the change starting from this point without the proper preparation, and that's why it doesn't work. So only here and now, when you have all the support, when you analyzed what is there now and how you want to change and which resources do you have for that and how much time you have for that and which budget and so on, who will support you into that, then and only here and now you can implement the change itself. So provide the new schedule, how exactly in which cadence people will run sprints and their agile train. How are they going to plan the work? How are they going to present the work, and delivery? How do we measure the outcome? How do people communicate? Is it online, offline? Do they gather together? How does it work? So the whole new vision, you of course set up not only alone, but with the decision maker and with those agents of change. You ask them first, and they can discuss with their teams and come back to you. So for example, it can be two-stage communications. You discuss with your agents of change, they come to the team, come back to you, bring in the information from there, and then you make the final decision all together. Of course, you always can interview people or have lunch, like more informal communication with them. And also you can make questionnaires for everyone in the project, but you have to be very careful with how exactly you formulate questions. Because if you ask how you want to have it, then 300 people will give you 300 different visions, and you will not ever merge them into one proper master vision. So ask only those questions which you are actually fine to have different opinion and implement it in different ways. But the schedule, the cadence, and so on, most probably you will just align with that change group, and you would not ask it like everyone in the project. And then during this change and in the end of change, is there ever an end of the change? I don't know. In Agile, it's quite difficult to say when is the end of the change, because the whole idea of Agile is to change constantly. But anyway, talking about the transformation, we need to conduct retrospectives and lessons learned. So in a way, like every month, for example, or every 2 weeks, so every sprint, for example, or every month, or every cadence, or every quarter, it depends on how big your change is, how big the team is, and how many people are involved. We have to conduct the retrospectives. Also, it could be questionnaire if you have too many people and you want to have consolidated feedback from all of them. Or you just make the normal retrospectives and then you make the master retrospective retro of the retro, overall retro for the whole project. This will help us understand what exactly our reality looks like and how to address the reality of this specific project and product. And don't forget to celebrate. Let's discuss the common pitfalls and lessons learned from the implementation of real changes. So the problem number one is that we cannot just blindly take a theoretical book and implement it in reality. It just does not work like that, ever. We cannot say that, okay, it's written here that people will self-organize, and guys, 300 people go and self-organize. I know that during the certification, and I'm a certified Scrum Master, it's a question and you answer like, yes, you let people self-organize. However, in reality, if you don't give any guidance, this self-organization most probably will fail. And I saw this failing in reality in big scales and small scales, but in big scales, it's even more painful to watch it. And then people don't believe in these agile transformations at all. They cannot hear the word agile or safe or less or some other scaled frameworks because they have such a bad experience about that. What I'm trying to say is that we give guidance, we give structure, so we give ideas, and we support. And this is very important to do from our side. It's not that we are dictators and we tell people what to do, but we at least need to give the idea of how exactly it could be implemented. Another lesson learned is that people have very different understanding of agile. What I see in reality, in practice, like every day and in every organization, that people would say they had perfect agile in their previous company, and then they start to explain how this perfect agile worked. And this is not agile at all. When, for example, a project manager distributes tasks, it's not agile, it's anti-agile, it's anti-self-organization, you know? But people would call it agile because someone called it like this in previous organization. So what is important is to align on our definitions and on our approaches, because what people call agile could be super far away from your standard classical understanding. And this is important to be on the same page. So it's actually super important to write down everything. Product owner is a role, Scrum Master, and all the roles explained, all the meetings explained, what is agenda explained, everything, each process, each communication, everything should be written down in the documentation of your agile framework, how exactly you're implementing it, in these new processes. Could be not necessarily agile, it's just general topics that everything should be documented in a way that nobody can read it in a different way. So people are literally on the same page and they understand it in the same way like everyone else. It's especially important when the scale is big, when there are hundreds of people. You cannot communicate with everyone personally and understand how they see it and explain that what they see is wrong. It's too much. So you have to document everything, make sure that you do it from the very beginning. And another topic is when people already have bad experience about agile, because it happens also quite often. People could think that agile is useless, or it's too, or it doesn't work, or it's too popular and this is just hype and it's just fashion, modern trend, but it actually doesn't work. And 20 years ago we worked in another way and it worked somehow. Okay, so when we make the agile transformation in this case, with this objection, with this resistance, we have to make sure to not overload people with agile words. We just talk to their logic, not necessarily overload them with new names like this is Scrum of Scrum, this is PI planning, this is, and other terms, because people might be overwhelmed that we do something only because agile says, or only because it's written in the book. What we have to do is to address, like from the logical perspective, it will be from the why. It will be important to have this planning for everyone so that all of us are aligned for a big cadence. So you explain why you need this big planning, and then you say, okay, it will be called PI planning. Or in the worst case, you can even call it, I don't know, overall planning or total or master planning, something in a way that people are not triggered. So in the end, we need that system works and not how exactly it is called. In the best way, just call it PI planning, of course. But if people are so annoyed and maybe they already had the agile transformation which failed, well, you can somehow improvise. In the end, you need a working product, and it is way more important than the documentation about this, right? This is our agile manifesto. So the system running is way more important than how exactly we call it, yeah? But of course, in the best case, call everything correctly is just the small hint, life hack, corner case. And the last point from lessons learned, it is very important to keep relationship and feedback on track. So when you start working and it's months after months and retro after lessons learned and so on, so people go to vacation, sick leave, come back. It's a bit of a chaos, yeah, and at some point of time you lose a track and maybe you don't ask people anymore, or everyone is busy and let's keep that retrospective, and you somehow lose the connection to the people. That is super wrong. What is important to do is to keep your personal connections with a decision maker or decision makers, with your agents of change, and with the whole project, yeah, in a different ways we already discussed. It is important because we are still providing new visions and new processes, and we are supporting people in implementing those processes and explaining and motivating them and so on. And this is very important to still keep trust between you all and the whole organization, and between agents of change and their teams, yeah, and between everyone in that process. And it is important to hear them and to address the issues which they bring as problems, because if you don't do it, at some point nobody comes to those retrospectives, nobody speaks up, and people are working like robots. They are demotivated, and in the end they will burn out. We don't need it. So we need good connections, we need good feedback loops, and we need constant improvements. Well, this is why we have Agile in the first place. And transformation is not a project, it's a living system. If you are leading or planning the Agile transformation and you want to create a realistic strategy, shift your organizational culture, train your leaders and teams with proven methods, then let's work together. With over a decade of experience in IT companies making big and small transformations, big up to several hundreds people, I have all the insights, all the tools to support you in this journey. I offer executive workshops, in-house Agile and leadership trainings, and one-on-one consulting for founders, managers, and change leaders. Visit the link in the description or connect with me on LinkedIn to learn more. Let's build the Agile environment that actually works for your people and for your business. If this video helped you, give it a like and subscribe to my channel Psychology and Business, where we discuss the human part of leadership, culture, and performance. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.